there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have a couple of fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today will be our last video in our Christmas in July series, but no worries. In a couple of months, we're going to start right back in again. So let's get started with project number 1. For this project, I'm getting right into cutting my pattern out. It's a candy cane with my jigsaw because I was actually cutting this with the project in my last video, kind of doing them simultaneously. Now, any patterns or printables will be on my blog. There'll be a link in my description box, and of course there will be a pattern for this, okay? Now the wood I'm using here is like MDF wood. It cuts really easy with my jigsaw here, and I got this at the Restore, and I think it was like an old shelf to an entertainment center. And yeah, it was huge. I got it for like $1, and you can't beat that. And I cut 3 big patterns out of this piece of wood, so I'll take it for the price. Now you could cut this out of foam board if you wanted. If you wanted to kind of take the design and, you know, incorporate it but make it smaller and do like wood ornaments, would work great. Your choice. But this is what I did. It's about 17 inches tall. Once everything is sanded, I pre-taped it off camera because it took me a little time to figure out the spacing, mostly up around in this curved area. So, you know, you do you and tape it how you want, but it took me a while. And I'm going to do the back later because I'm going to just kind of paint that in just a plain like off-white color. But first thing I'm going to do is use my antique wax mixed with water to get it stained. I should have thought of, I often do this because my brain's always thinking a step ahead, but I should have thought to do this before I taped it off, because now once I do this and then I paint it and then we distress it and then I take the tape off and I have to retape it, I'm going to have to stain those areas where I could have just done it all in one swoop. So don't do me, do you. And you know, if you want to stain it ahead of time, do that. This is a board I'm using. It came from my friend Crafting with Kimber. It was just like part of some set or something like that. It's about the size of those rectangle boards, like that 6-pack. Is it a 6-pack or a 5-pack? You can get at Dollar Tree. And then these are Wonky stars from craftingwithkimber.com. I'll have the link for these down below in my description box. Here, I'm not sure what size I'm going to use, so I'm doing 2 of them because whatever one I don't use, I can save later for a project. And I like to stain the wood ahead of time if it's light colored wood, because once I use like the Dixie Belle chalk paint in rustic red or drop cloth and I distress it, then that stain will kind of pop through up and around the edges and it'll get a little bit of dimension. And those have been with me a while, you know this spiel, so plug your ears. Those of you who are new, you don't know the spiel, so that's why I stain ahead of time, only on light colored wood. So as I get done, you know, working on this, staining it, I will do 2 coats. And then, of course, I'm doing the outside and inside edge. Again, the back is left for now. I'm not going to worry about that till all my taping is done. All right, so I like to sand and distress with the tape on because, you know, it gives me my guidelines. And like right there, I can get right up close to that tape and really distress, kind of make a line like that. So it really accentuates that particular stripe, if you know what I mean. And plus, this is red, and the red powder might kind of get over onto the other spot. And sometimes it's hard to kind of, even though it's just powder, it kind of stains it red. And I want my next part of my stripes to be white, not pink, right? Once that's done, I'll take my tape off, and you can see how good it's looking. There's a little bit of spillage with the staining, but I expected that, and that's okay because like I said, see there, like I said, I got to retape and restain anyway, right? So, but the red part's looking pretty good. All right, now I'm going to just retape and tape over the red that I just painted. Of course, I'll just do, I don't know how many, not very many here, and then I'll finish the rest off camera. All right, now I'm coming in. I'm blending in those leakage areas from our, you know, quote-unquote stain. I like to use this Waverly Antique Wax, mix it with water and use it as stain because you get a lot of that wax in a bottle and it goes a long way. And the more you water it, the lighter your stain. And obviously the other way around, the less you water it, the darker your stain, right? It's just a very inexpensive way. With Waverly Antique Wax, Waverly you can get most craft stores, but I know like Walmart has it. All right, once I get this all painted and it's done, I'm going to start in with that drop cloth, and I'll paint, you know, both my stars. And then, of course, this is going to be my little sign we're going to put on our candy cane. You don't have to put a sign. You can just do some decoration and a ribbon, and there you go. But I want to do a cute little sign. And then I will come in and start painting the candy cane. Now, on the sides, I just do one coat, because when you're on MDF and you try to distress, distress is weird on the side when you're on that particular part of the grain of the fake wood. But on the front, I'll do 2 coats. And in the back, when the tape is off, I use this drop cloth to paint the entire back. You'll kind of see that pop up later. Once all this color is dry, then I'll start distressing it. And I like to kind of do a heavy distress. I like to really put the lines in so you can see it here. But you distress as much as you want. Again, distressing with the tape on so I can really accentuate the, you know, lines of those stripes there. And you don't have to distress at all if you don't want to, but the distressing kind of gives the rustic in it. And I think I'm using, sometimes I use a 120 grit sandpaper, and sometimes I'll go down to like a 80, maybe even a 60, depending on, you know, how hard it is to distress. There's what it's looking like so far, looking absolutely fabulous. As we pull off the tape, that's our favorite part. I mean, I could have just left it like this. I love it, but you know me, I'm going to decorate it. Now I'm taking my Crop It out, and I'm punching a hole in my sign about 3 inches in from the right and left edge at the top. And then I've got some of this rusty wire I found in the garage and my husband's stuff. Shh, nobody tell him. And if he's watching this, plug your ears, honey. I took it out of the garage. And then I've got a lot of different just greenery and beaded berries and rusty bells and things like that. Before we get to decorating, I'm taking black chalk paint. I mix it with water, and I use my fan brush to tap that paint, and a little bit onto Boston's tail, to tap splatters onto all my wood pieces. You can see there the back that's painted. I distressed it a little bit as well, just to kind of make everything tie in. Of course, I'm splattering the sides, and I'll splatter the back. I normally wouldn't splatter the back, but when I was splattering the sides, some of the splatter got on the back, and then I had to splatter the back, etc., etc. And here is your free printable. I did 3 different sizes. There'll be a PDF and a PNG for you on my blog. So you could print it out onto scrapbook paper. You can print it out on a fabric if you want to. And if you have electronic cutting machine, then you can use it that way. The fonts will also be in my description box if you just want to type it up yourself. Okay? And if you do the PDF, you know, you want to use carbon paper so you can trace it and paint it out however you want to do it. Just giving you some options. I like to put my splatter on after I've added my vinyl, so it all just kind of ties in together. And now I'm taking a piece of that rusty wire, making a little loop at the top, and then I'm going to put it through those holes. This was actually a little bit hard because I think the diameter of this wire was kind of like, the gauge was kind of stiff, but I used my round needle nose pliers to make some little curly cues, and then I'll press it against the sign. And the reason I'm doing this, you only get a glimpse of it, but it's there because I wanted it to look like, I will add a nail, here it is. I wanted it to look like the sign was hanging from the candy cane, obviously. But once I start adding in greenery, it, you know, it covers it a little bit, but I try to keep it there so you can see it. So this little E is like a piece from a Dollar Tree sign. It's probably about a 1/2 inch tall, and I'm using it underneath the sign so that I can get my greenery up underneath that sign. I need that space between the sign and the candy cane. So I'll put a little bit here, and see, I'm keeping that nail exposed at the top. And then I'll put in this little piece of, you know, scrap wood here. And then I'll glue my sign on top of that so it stays in place. Adding a little bit more greenery as we go. And yes, I'm using my hot glue gun. I know, right? Now the top, I will bend that nail down and everything a little bit later to, you know, the sign's not going to go anywhere, but to make it look like, you know, the nail is holding the sign, obviously, and not that it's glued onto a piece of scrap wood. So just add any of your greenery that you want here and there, filling in your space. And then I'm going to add in some rusty bells. I've added in my favorite beaded berries. They come on a pick from Hobby Lobby. Kind of trying to use up my scrap greenery. I'm getting really low. I'm waiting to like get in there to Hobby Lobby this year and, you know, stockpile up again so it'll last me a couple more years. And then here I have some ribbon I thought matched the colors of the candy cane. Of course, just tied it into a bow. glue it at the bottom of the sign, add another bell kind of in there in the center. And then I'm going to wrinkle and crinkle my ribbon. I don't want the tails just hang straight down, and I like to kind of glue them, spot glue them into place. Adds a little personality. I'll glue my star into the greenery. As you saw, I settled for the smaller star. And then we'll finish up this project with my favorite glitter dust for Christmas. I'll have a link down below to the Etsy shop I get it from. All of the colors she has, they're all clear with very micro fine glitter in it. I'm using clear with silver. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video a little closer up, but that makes this project complete. Let's move right on into project number 2. I realized we really hadn't done a Christmas tree this year yet, so that's what we're doing. I found this container at like a thrift store. Front and back has this emblem on it, so whatever side you put it on, but it needed a little something more. It already kind of looked distressed, so I'm taking black chalk paint mixed with water, and I'm going to splatter all the sides. See, I'm back on the other. I'm not splattering the same side. This is the back side. So no matter which angle you turn it from, it looks like the front, right? We like that. And then once this is done, I also found this wood candle holder from a thrift store, like uber cheap, and it's so heavy, I thought it would weigh down the container nicely, as well as hold my tree. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it down with my quick hold glue, which is a sister or brother glue of E6000, however you want to do it. It needs to set about 10 minutes before we work with it, so we'll set it aside. And then we're going to use one of these wood planks that I was talking about in the last project from Dollar Tree, a package of them, and then a larger size crafting with Kimber star. So I'm doing the same thing I did, you know, again in the last project, taking the Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water, only this time I want the stain really dark underneath, and I will stain both of these. And then, of course, I will paint both of them as soon as this is dry. And I'll do front and back because you'll probably be able to see the back side a little bit. Bringing in my drop cloth, I probably don't even need to show you guys my paints, right? I use like the same 4 colors on everything. Just kidding, but I totally always use the drop cloth because it's a nice cream color. I will do 2 coats front and back, and then, of course, I will distress them. Get this finished painted up. We'll move on to the next project. Aha, this is the tree while that paint's drying that I'm going to be using. I picked this up off of eBay. It was like 6 for like $20. It looks nice and rustic, of course, but it definitely needs to be fluffed out a bit. So I take some time. I'm not going to do it all on here. It probably took me a good 10 minutes. And some of the branches were weirdly longer than the branches up above. It was so weird. So I cut them off and then I add them to the top to fill it in. And then you're going to notice right here, see the arrow to the left, there's kind of like this triangle, like empty space. I did that on purpose to hold the sign. Now I'm going to use this snow flock. I get it off Amazon. It's a 2-pound bag. It's about $25. This stuff looks exactly like the flocking that you see like on, you know, trees that you buy at like Hobby Lobby or whatever. It's not that spray crap in a can, and yeah, I'm saying spray cap, and all you need to spray crap, and all you need to make it work is some water. Now you could have like a little sifter thing here if you want, and you just spray it with water first, and then you can either sift it on, or like I'm doing, I'm just dumping it on. And then you can do 2 or 3 coats or however many you want. You just have to spray it with water in between coats to kind of set it. Now right here, I'm going to just lay down a mat. I've sprayed it with water. I'm going to sprinkle it on. And then I need to roll up the mat, get it out of the way when I spray it with water, because I don't want any of that water to go onto the powder on the mat, because then I can't reuse it. It's going to clump up and be hard. Okay, so I'm going to do this all the way around, adding as much as I want and then setting it with water in between. And I think I do about 3 coats, and then you just let it all dry. I think I had to let it dry a couple of hours, which was fine. All right, but I love how this stuff works because it really looks powdery and bulky and good, and it's awesome. So again, this is Snow Flock. You get it off Amazon. Okay, I'll try to find a link down and have it in my description box for you. All right, now, while that's drying, I'm taking this piece of fabric. It's just a scrap piece. I don't even know how long it is, maybe 9 by 12, because I'm going to set it in here like this, and so I don't need a big piece, and just kind of let it hang over the edge. All right, and then I ripped about a 2-inch piece of fabric, probably 36 inches long. We'll set it aside. We're going to make a bow out of it later. Now my paint is dry here, so I'm going to distress up my little sign and my large size wood star. Give it a lot of distressing. As I told you earlier, I like to have that distressing. Gives it that rustic look, right? Finish the star up here. Oh, that's just nice. That's nice. All right, and then I'm going to punch, again, a hole with my crocodile about 1 inch from the right edge, and then a hole right at the tippy top of the star. All right, and then I'm going to use some rusty wire. This is different wire. I didn't steal it from my husband. I'm going to be using some of these rusty star ornaments you can get from Hobby Lobby, some rusty bells from Hobby Lobby, and some, LED. This is a 20 light LED strand. I got a box of them off Amazon. And then a free printable for you. Again, I made it in different sizes. I think I'm using the bottom size for this one. It's like 2x6 is the size I, cut out with the vinyl. And again, I will have the fonts down below. Sorry, that was a little bit broken up speech, but I was trying to think ahead a little bit. All right, I'm going to get my vinyl on here. Looks really pretty. And then, of course, you know what's coming. We're going to add some splatters. I think the splatters kind of help ground everything. And I say that all the time, but we always have new people watching, and I always say that all the time, but there you go. Now I'm taking some of that rusty wire, and about 3 inches from one end, I'm wrapping it around a paintbrush to make curlicues. All right, and then I'll put the straight end, that 3 inches through the front, and I'll squish the curlicues on the back. And then I'll curlicue the remainder hanging out the front, and I'll squish that among the front. And so the squished curlicues on the front and back will kind of wedge against that sign and hold together nicely, okay? All right, and then I'm going to curlicue the middle a little bit, just to give it some, fun personality. A little bit more here. Perfect. And then I'm going to put my star through. I scrunched the first set of curlicues I did, put my star through, curlicue the front straight wire, cut off the excess, and then I'll do just like I did on the sign. I will squish the front and back curlicues against the star. I thought it would be cute to kind of, make our star hanging from our sign, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of whimsy. And then I'm leaving a little bit of the curlicue, you can see right there, hanging out. You'll see it better close up. I leave a little bit hanging out. Now I'm taking some double stick scrapbook tape. This is from scrapbook.com. Really good. I'll have a link down below for you. I didn't want to just glue this on here. Even though I'm going to glue the tree to it, I wanted this to be on double stick tape so that when you store it, you could at least just kind of pull this off so it's stable. The tree, the heaviness of the tree doesn't just pull it out of the bucket. I want it sort of, adhered to that wood holder, but I don't want it permanent. So if I want to pull it apart to store it, I can do that because I can always re-add new double sticky tape. And then I'm just gluing down any extra little fabric there hanging. That part doesn't bother me, just so it looks nice inside, although the tree covers it up. Anyway, was that confusing? Might have been confusing to me. And now I'm adding my LED lights in. Again, I think I got these in like a 24 pack, around $20 off Amazon. Just search that, and it's a 20, if I remember right, 20 LED light strand. Warm light. All right, so I've wrapped that around the tree. Here's my sign ready to go. I'm going to stick it in that opening I showed you earlier because that's going to hold it nice and tight. I'm going to kind of put the branches over the top, and you could leave it like that, but I'll still glue it in. I'm going to get my star where I want it, and then I'll kind of pull each one out gently and kind of glue them to the branches. But first off, I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac glue and glue my tree down in onto that fabric, and it sets right in the middle of my candle stand there. All right, and now I'm just the bottom and the top of the sign where it touches the branches. I will add glue. And then, of course, fold the branches back over again so it hides the glue. Sorry, I'm a little off camera here. There you can see a little bit right there. And then down to the bottom, do the same thing on the star. Wherever it's going to touch a branch, add some glue on the edge, of course. And you don't have to glue it in if you don't want. The branches really hold it fine. And then I'm going to cut about 6 pieces of wire, probably 8 inches. And I'm going to just make a holder. So I put it through the top of the bell, kind of, twist the end, and then I'm going to turn it so that twisty is at the bottom, and then I'll wrap that twisty around the bottom of the hanger, and then we've got a loop at the top, and it was probably easier to watch than what I just said. All right, and then I'll start hanging everything. These already have hangers on them because they're ornaments that you can get at Hobby Lobby, rusty ornaments. And I'm only going to do 2 rusty stars because then if you add it with the big white star, that's 3 stars and everything looks good in odd numbers, right? And I'll hang some bells, again, odd numbers on the front and the back side a little bit. Just 3 on the back side. So, you know, we don't want the back side to be naked. And this is how I put my lights in. I just put a branch over it to hold it, the battery pack. And then I'm going to use some Excelsior here. I got this at a garage sale for $1. And I'm just going to put it, you know, and stuff it inside, right underneath that tree. Inside the container there, obviously. Over the fabric, under the tree. How about that? I want a little to stick out the sides. It gives it a little bit of a kind of a nice country look. You can put or not put anything there if you want. I love how this turned out, and it was really simple to make. Right, and then I decided, because that canister kind of had that little lip around it, so I decided to add really kind of thick twine I get at Walmart, and just add a little bow here, tie it around, or wrap it around twice around that neck, and then make a large bow. And then I'm going to take this ribbon or fabric that I ripped and tied into a bow. Make it look all nice. And then I'm going to add a safety pin and a rusty bell right in the center once I get it where I want. Here's my safety pin, rusty bell. And then I will safety pin that to the twine bow as well as the fabric. And I think I do a little bit of glue as well so it doesn't just hang forward, you know. It hangs it in place really good. And then you know what's coming, the glitter dust. I'll just kind of glitter dust like the sign and the container a little bit, maybe the rusty bells just to give it that little bit of something, something, a little bit onto the fabric as well. And here's what it looks like. I'll turn the lights down just a little bit so you can see it with the lights on. We'll take a closer look at the end of the video, of course. And here's what it looks like with the lights on. And that makes this project complete. Let's move on to our last project, number 3. Now, this one I wasn't going to put in here because we're always a little hard on ourselves, and I was a little critical of this one, but let me know what you think. I'm going to be using these 2 crochet colors. I got them in a thrift store, but you can get them at Walmart, crochet thread. Some of this felt from Hobby Lobby, and then some of this. You could use a white or whatever, but I wanted cream, and of course, there's a free pattern for you. Again, the link to my blog in the description box where you'll find all the patterns and printables today. Now, you could make this an ornament or a garland. I'm going to make it into a garland. So you have, it doesn't look much bigger, but it is the bigger one. You're going to need 2 for this larger one and 1 for this. Although this cream felt was a little bit thin, so I decided to cut 2. And you can put it whatever direction you want. Of course, I'm going to have the hook face to the left. But I'm going to use 2 pieces again for this cream because I want to. You can just do 1, but you definitely need 2 for the back. I cut out 7 pairs for these cookies, and I will probably accidentally call them candy canes if I haven't already. These are cookies, all right? 7. So I needed 14 of those, and of course 14 of these. And we're going to start on the cream colored fabric. And this is where we're going to use our crochet thread. Just cut off a big chunk. And use a needle, like you can get these from Walmart, like a doll needle or a yarn darner needle, something with a big eye hole that will accommodate the diameter of your thread. Just make a little knot at one end, and we're going to start from the back. Now, before I do this, I want to show you, try to stay away about a 1/4 inch from one edge. If you're a gluer, don't worry about it, but if you're a sewer, try to stay about a 1/4 inch from the edge all the way around because we need room to sew this onto our back piece, okay? But if you're a gluer, it doesn't matter how close to the edge you get. So from the back, pull your needle from the back to the front till your knot hits the back of it, and then 1/2 inch away or so and make a little dash line, and then go from the front to the back. All right, make a little dash line. We're going to kind of go back and forth like this all the way around. So I'm going to come from the back, pull it all the way through, 1/2 inch away, front to the back, and make a little dash line. Just like that, in kind of a back and forth motion or whatever pattern you want. And what we're doing here is making some little sprinkles, right? Cookies have sprinkles. So however you want to do it. I've skipped forward to the end for you, of course, because you know how to do it. All right, and then once you get however many of the green you want, or whatever color you want, you could do whatever colors you want, knot it off on the back, and then we're going to start and do the same process with the red, or whatever color you choose. I'll try to go opposite of the one below it, but, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I think I get a couple of them the same direction, but I do try to kind of go back and forth, opposite directions of the other color. And again, all the way around, as many as you want. Perfect. And then, of course, when you're done, this is the, sprinkles on our cookie. Turn it over and knot it off on the back. If you're a gluer, you probably don't really need to knot it. Just kind of cut a nice long string there so that when you glue it, you can, have enough room so your string doesn't fall out. And, of course, I've done 7 of these. These are so cute. I think I would like them more better as ornaments versus how I did it on a garland, but that's okay. Now we need to attach this to one piece of our back, okay? So if you're a gluer, just glue it on, and if you're a sewer, you're just going to go around the edge of that cream and sew that on. All right, so I'm starting in here. Of course, I'll just show you a little bit of it. I skipped ahead for you. But now you can see why I said if you're a sewer to save a little, about a 1/4 inch edge around there so you have room for your thread, of course, to go around your cookie, your frosting, so to speak. And this is what that looks like. So that's our frosting with our sprinkles. Now, what I'm going to use for the garland is this from Dollar Tree, this twine stuff. But what I've done to make hangers is I've made a little knot. Now, if you want to do it as an ornament, you're going to hang it like that. If you want to hang it on the garland, you want to turn it sideways. Is that understandable? So I made a little knot and cut them all off, and I'm gluing it sideways with my Fabri-Tac glue, or of course you can use hot glue. And then where I glue it, you're going to do it even if you're a gluer or sewer about a 1/4 inch in, and leave the bottom open. You do not want to glue that down. And I'm going to add more glue around the knot of that hanger. And don't worry, because that knot, when we stuff this, and I'm going to squish that really tight there so it really adheres to that hanger. When we stuff this, you're not even going to feel that knot in there. Okay, now I'm going to start with this cream crochet thread. I'm going to start at the side at the bottom between the 2 pieces of backing so we can hide our knot. And then I'm just going to bring the thread around to the front side and come out the back where we started. Does that make sense? Because we kind of got to make that first loop over the end of the fabric. And it's going to make a funny straight stitch on the back when we go to make our second one. But you see how that looks? And then we turn it over. And we're just going to go over the edge here, all the way around. See, when I turn over, the first to the second stitch is going to make like a straight stitch. No getting around it that I know of, but that's okay. All right, and then we're just going to go from the back to the front, over the side. Back to the front, over the side. Now, this is optional. You do not have to do this. Or if you want some kind of decorative stitching, you can just do straight stitches all the way around versus coming over the side. Now, when I finish all the way around and come down to the bottom, I'm leaving my needle on the thread because then I need to stuff it. I kind of skipped ahead on the stuffing here. And then I need to close my opening there. And so I'm just going to continue around, going around that edge. All right. And then when I close it up, that last stitch, here I come around that last stitch, I'm going to open that kind of section there. You got to kind of open it. And you're going to do like you did when you started. You're going to bring it from the front in between the 2 layers. See my needle there? Pull it through. I'm going to cut off the excess. Doesn't matter where you make your knot, kind of as close to the edge as possible. Just like that. You can see I'm 1/8 of an inch away. Doesn't matter. Cut off even more thread. And then I'm going to poke that in and then glue it so no one sees that opening. Okay, so hopefully that was understandable. Again, totally optional. It's just a decorative stitch, and all 7 are done. Now, let's add a few pieces to our garland. I'm going to use these felt balls, red and cream. They came on a garland from Hobby Lobby last year. Very inexpensive. I got you can do whatever colors you want. And then these are little mini rolling pin ornaments. They are set of 4 that come from Walmart. And I'm just going to use 2. I had 3 here, but I end up just using 2. And then I'm going to use that macrame thread or whatever, again, from Walmart. And some of this pom-pom trim you can get from Hobby Lobby as the main, string for our garland. And then some other little cute ribbons here, a check ribbon and a little rickrack ribbon and some wire. Okay? So I've made some little bows out of that plaid ribbon. Of course, I put it on, all 3 of these little rolling pins. I'll only use 2. And then I'm going to take that wire I cut off about 8 inches, and I'm going to thread it through the center of that felt button. And on one end, I'm using my round needle nose pliers and making a little curly Q. And then, of course, I twist it so it lays flat against the bottom. And then at the top, about 2 inches up, I'm going to fold it over, right? And then I'm going to take that straight in and wrap it around at the bottom to make us a little hanger. All right, and I'm going to squeeze that sharp end against that hanger so it doesn't like poke anybody, just kind of like we did on our bells in the last project, right? And I'll do that for all of my felt balls, which I believe I made 16 of them. Now let's move on to the main string for our garland. So this is how I like to make the loops on the end. So my main macrame piece is 72 inches, and I think my pom-pom trim is about 52 inches. And I'll take 10 inches on each end. All right, and then I'll just kind of make a loop, and then I'll take that pom-pom trim and just kind of stick it partway into the center of the loop. And then I'll tie that macrame around the pom-pom and pull it tight. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side, of course, and make sure that both of my loops are even. Now, the reason I do the pom-pom trim like that is because there is enough on the roll that if you cut it exactly in half, you can get 2 garlands out of it. All right, once that's all together, what I'd like to do is take my main garland and fold it in half, and then I put a clothespin or a marker there so I know where the center of my garland is. And then I'll start first by sliding my middle piece right up to the middle of that garland. All right, and then I will, of course, pin it into place. All right, and then I go from right to left and I, slide everything on in order that it needs to be. And I do one side at a time, which is why I kind of clip the centerpiece onto that main garland at first. Right, here we go on the left side. Now, I'm able to slide my stuff right over those knots. If you are not able to slide over the knots, then don't make the knots first, okay? Get everything slid on first and then make your loops at the end for hanging. So here everything is, and then you can see my center by that yellow marker. And then the next thing I do is I take my main pieces, which are my cookies, and I make them all from one side to the other so they're the same width apart. So I'm roughly about 4 inches apart. All right, so I will measure all the way across the 4 inches in between, but I'll do like one side at a time. So here I'm on the right side. I'm using this rickrack trim because I thought it was cute and resembled frosting. And I'm going to tie it over the loop of the cookie and the loop of the main garland at the same time. So it holds that cookie in place. And then just tie a half knot. And then once I get it really tight, then I'll go through and tie a whole knot. Okay? And then, of course, I'll trim it a little bit later off camera because I don't want it as long, but I'll get it into position. I'll do that all the way across for all my cookies. All right. Now, I'm going to use this crochet trim from Dollar Tree. I think I cut them about 6 inches or so long, maybe 8 inches, and I'll cut enough for all of my felt balls. All right, and we're going to tie these on a little bit differently, only because the loop on my felt ball is bigger than the loops on my cookie, or I would have done my cookie this way. So this is 2 ways that you can tie your laces or trims on. I'm going through the loop of the felt ball and then underneath the main twine, like this. Okay, and then I'll bring it up and tie a little knot in the center. All right, so 2 ways to do it. But I didn't do that on the cookie because my little hanger was quite small. All right, and then, of course, I will do that all the way across on the right side. I like I said, one side at a time. I'll trim off the edges a little bit. And then the last thing I'm going to do for this right side, I've just got a nice long piece of that red crochet string. I'm going to put it through the loop of the rolling pin, and then I'm going to tie a knot right at the top of the hook that's already on there. Pull both strings together, and then about 2 inches up, I'm going to grab both of those strings, make a little knot. All right, and then that knot's going to go right up against the bottom of the main garland hanger like that. And then I can tie a knot at the top so it keeps it in place nice and tight. And then I'll just tie a little bow with the remainder of the string, trim off the tails. And then once that's done, I'm going to do the same thing over to the left side. I'm going to do that off camera because you know what we're doing now, right? Hopefully. All right, here I am on the left, just kind of doing a few little ties here. I left that in to show you. So I lied. I didn't do it all off camera. I left a little bit in for you. Cutting a few pieces off here. You can see I'm doing the same thing. Then I'm adding in my other little rolling pin. And you don't have to add the rolling pins at all. I almost didn't because I thought it was cute enough without it. But I was like, I had them prepared, so I'll use them. And here it is hanging on the wall. No other Christmas decorations because it isn't Christmas yet. But I wanted you to see it as a whole. That makes this project complete. Still not sure if I like it as a garland. You're going to have to let me know in the comments, but they would totally make cute ornaments, right? So I hope you enjoyed all 3 projects today. I mean, it was almost a 2-project video, but as you know, sometimes we get a little bit critical of our art, and I was pretty critical of this garland that you all almost did not see it. Again, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and let me know which project was your favorite. Please give this video a thumbs up and share it because it really helps my channel to grow, and I've got my fingers crossed for my goal this year. I would love to reach all sorts of crafters out there. If you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss another video from me. Now, before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. When life seems to rise to the surface, take a walk. When there aren't enough hours in the day, take a walk. When life throws you an unexpected turn of events, take a walk. Just as Jesus did so many times throughout his ministry, when he needed to voice his concerns, when he needed guidance, when he needed a rest to find strength for one more day, he took a walk. In the Bible, the book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 35, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Sometimes in the busyness of it all, or in the midst of something unsettling, you shouldn't let your own efforts determine your outcome. Your heart and your mind need to settle on Jesus and who he is and what he can do in your life to help you make it through. You may notice that sometimes your thoughts often tend to think, I'll pray later, I've got to get this done first. Here's a piece of advice. When life is more intense, your later needs to become now. So take a walk. Let go and see what God has to offer you. Don't let your day be so full or your heart so burdened that you forget to seek out Jesus. He can make a difference in the details of your life. By now, this message should be simple. If your clarity of thought is so exhausted that you just can't think straight, then too much is happening and you need to take that walk. Jesus should be the central focus in your life if you hope to make it through whatever is happening. He should always remain the one true vine that you are grafted to. In the Bible, the book of John, chapter 15, verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. His word is absolute and crystal clear. Apart from him, you can do nothing. So don't make it so unbearable on yourself by trying to do things in and of yourself because you won't get far. Without God who created you, your bones would not have flesh, your lungs would not have air, your heart would not beat. Jesus is divine and he is fully God. He is the authority for everything you need. Don't allow your day to be more important than the one who gave you life. Take a walk. Turn from looking one way and refocus your attention to Jesus. You'll be able to release your anxieties, look for guidance, and find rest to gain strength to face one more day. If Jesus relied on his walk, then there must be something of value and importance to take from this. And it's okay because life can get away from you sometimes, so don't feel condemned about how you faced yesterday. Today, you can start fresh and begin with Jesus because he is your way, he is your truth, he is your life, and he will make all things new. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.